Hello and welcome to the Blackwater Report. You may have noticed this is episode 10. I can't believe we did it this long either. Since our last report, we have had one city council meeting, one committee of the whole, and one special city council meeting over Main Street Milton. Coming up first, the July 9th meeting.
Welcome to the City of Milton.
First off, the city will recognize Detective Mistovich.
The City of Milton Special Recognition Award presented to Detective Steve Mistovich, recognizing your commitment and accomplishments while providing a dedicated service as a member of the Milton Police Department to the citizens of the City of Milton. Your personal commitment and tenacious approach make you a valuable asset for our city.
A member of public expressed his concern with Milton's social media policy.
How social media is being handled, all things that are very critical to the city of Milton.
Ordinance 1488-19, setting the limits before bids are required from $10,000 to $25,000. Next, Resolution 1468-19, the approval of a line of credit, about $500,000 here at SunTrust. This was unanimously approved. You never know when you might need it.
Highway 90, gonna reroute it. We gotta move the gas line out of the middle of the road. It gives us the funds to do that without breaking our back.
We have to pay for those utilities.
We have to pay for all those.
Right.
Next, we have item 1470-19, the prohibition on use of excessive force, to which Chief Tyndall had this to say.
Good evening, Council. This resolution really doesn't change or affect the way that we do anything. Simply, I'm not going to put up with excessive force anyway.
And I apologize for the quality on this, but if you didn't hear Chief Tyndall, he was explaining how he and his officers will not tolerate the use of excessive force. On to the attorney's report.
City Attorney's report.
We're still looking at the title work on the front parcel across Berry Hill Road on the cemetery, and I'll confess that the title on that parcel is, as for most of the cemetery, is quite a knot and tangle.
And on to council committee items with item 1329, the Wings Over Milton final submissions with our winner, Nick Almeida.
All other council members voting in favor of Mr. Almeida's artwork.
Item 1334, discussion over Kaiser Cemetery and the release of the funds for the cemetery.
And when he came in, he knew exactly what I wanted. I said, Mr. George, we would like to know what compliance that we're out of. And he told me about the finance. He had for 4 years of our record. I had him the bank statement, I had him transaction, and the monthly reconciliation that I do every month. And I brought that to him. Didn't I do that, Mr. Jersey?
You certainly did.
This was approved under the condition that Kaiser Cemetery use the funds for maintenance items only, no capital improvements. And next we have item 1333, where the council discusses the $20,000 being allocated to the engineers of the Splashpad here at Carpenter's Park. We have City Manager Jorgensen to tell us why.
They've approved the concept that we had previously expressed to council. So this is to do that work specifically to relieve our plant of the loading that will be caused by this new proposed facility.
This, of course, was approved. We'll be looking for a spring 2020 opening. Item 1336, Milton will now contract all their auctioning services through Bedelia Incorporated. Next, Councilman Jordan speaks to the TDC, and first on his list is the options of an amphitheater, either here at Jernigan's Landing or nearby in the downtown Milton area.
Board's requesting TDC funding for an amphitheater, and the location has not been decided on.
Next, Councilman Jordan describes why contractors are not choosing Milton due to the widening of Highway 90 conflict.
There's a number of investors that would really like to jump into this, but we have the issue of a Highway 90 that is unresolved, and we are at this time unable to get past that roadblock with the developer.
The Triumph grant was brought up, and it was signed on July 2nd, so we can expect to see some great things out of that. So the next thing Councilman Jordan speaks of was pretty interesting.
And I want to bring up the multimodal transportation route. This is an issue for bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorists.
This multimodal pathway, or sidewalks, will connect the city of Milton to the village of Baghdad.
Yeah, between Baghdad and Milton. We would love to get that trail opened up going from here to the park down here. And that's of real importance to me and to everyone else here, I think.
Next, we have facade grants and the guidelines the city will take to approve them.
I think we need to set up some facade grant guidelines for this council.
On to the mayor's report, where Mayor Lindsay shares with us a letter that she received from the Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody.
You receive a copy of the letter that I received back from Ashley Moody, the Attorney General of the state of Florida. When questions are raised about my taking employment with the city of Pensacola as a lawyer, I asked the Attorney General to look at whether there was a conflict, but to the extent the circumstances could be examined now, the Attorney General did make an examination and concluded that there is no conflict.
We have an update with the Guy Thompson case.
At one time, it was scheduled for Guy Thompson to be sentenced in federal court on July 29th at 1 p.m. But that may have changed to August 30th. And I thought people should be made aware of that in case they wanted to attend.
Item 1324, rules of order, and after a 30-minute discussion, they vote to stay the same.
A yes vote is to keep what's already in policy, and a no vote would be to permit further consideration of these rules. So majority wish to follow the old policies.
On to the city manager's report. Mr. Jorgensen has this to say about the Milton Cemetery Board.
I do want to speak to the Milton Cemetery Board. After reviewing all of the material that I have available, it is my concerted opinion that at no time has the Cemetery Board acted unethically and certainly not illegally in the conduct of their affairs. And I wanted to make that perfectly clear.
And last on tonight's meeting, we have item 1337, the Commercial Facade Improvement Program, which reviews Spencer's Secondhand Store here on Stewart Street. Spencer's Secondhand Store was looking for $668.89 for broken windows here at their store. Now, they will be matching these funds to complete the project. This was almost delayed.
I have a motion and a second to delay final decision on this item.
But luckily for Spencer's, Councilman Casey Powell had this as an idea.
I think that since this cycle is closed and applications have already been accepted, I don't think it would be fair to retroactively require any kind of requirements that we may come up with to this particular cycle.
Because of this idea, it resulted in this.
Are there any questions that remain concerning awarding the funds to Spencer? Seeing none, please vote. Unanimously approved.
Congratulations, Spencer. Now to the July 18th meeting. This meeting bounces around a little bit, but we promise we'll keep you in order.
Welcome to the City of Milton. This is the Committee of the Whole.
Item 1355, the council decides where to put the wings over Milton.
Second still stands then?
Yes.
Councilman Powell seconded the motion to put the selected art on a movable structure that will be placed on the northwest area, maybe not the exact corner, but there at the Imogene Theater on the sidewalk.
Item 1345, the city discusses putting some banners on all the light posts in Milton.
There's really 131,
There is.
and they all have the banner
They
for?
all have the banner arms.
Item 1344, the council discusses the amphitheater. We have Mr. Hill who would describe to council the benefits of an amphitheater and things to consider when choosing one.
Is going to be important in two aspects. Number one, making sure that it's feasible in our climate. Number two, making sure that it's large enough to be multi-purpose. That we should be able to put the Milton High School Chorus or, 5 churches choirs up there, to do a 4th of July Freedom Festival or whatever it happens to be that you do. Building something that's small enough just to handle what we're doing now would be useless and nonsense.
Next item we have is the Milton High School Homecoming Parade.
The annual homecoming parade, they use the same route every year. It entails using part of Stewart Street in front of the high school. That requires an FDOT permit. The date of the parade this year is November 1st, 2019.
Item 1348, the Citizens Advisory Task Force of Milton is looking for volunteers.
And it would be my intent to develop an application for citizens who have an interest I'm also looking for potential participation from the Bar Association, the school system, the faith community, law enforcement, substance abuse services, and rehabilitation, and potentially someone identified by council from each of the wards within the community. I think that would constitute what I would consider to be a reasonably sized task force.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good group. Item 1347, where the council reviews Ordinance 1087 in regards to the Milton City Cemetery. Councilman Powell shares his thoughts.
I guess there's really a good way to say it, but this ordinance was enacted, I believe, from my research in 2002, and it doesn't appear that this ordinance was ever followed by the designated people that are supposed to follow it as far as the city is concerned. I'm not talking about any boards. I'm talking about the city, because it's our responsibility as a city, once something has been enacted, to ensure that it's being followed. And none of us were sitting up here in 2002, so I mean, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying that this particular ordinance and the way that it's written now was not something that was followed.
Followed by Attorney Andre giving us our options.
Does the city attorney have any recommendations on amending this ordinance to be more consistent with best practices or what we can feasibly do?
As far as specificity on changing this specific ordinance, without a participating board, which is my understanding, there's not currently a participating board on the other end of this ordinance.
You're correct.
This is really an opportunity for you to open it back up and discuss about what you would like to see on how you would like that cemetery to run in the future.
And still no word yet as to who actually owns the Milton City Cemetery.
We're doing the full title search. It's just there's a lot of history there. And so it's going to take us going through a title company and determining exactly how ownership is vested currently. An ordinance simply stating that the city owns it, not sufficient.
Okay.
So we have to actually do the full title search.
Item 1349, the next site report. Here, council and staff discuss.
2 years. We had paid his company 2 years prior $50,000 per year, and now we're paying him $22,000 per year.
So my question then to Mr. Jorgensen is, what would you think is reasonable for him to establish relationships so that we could make some headway or see some headway from this? And a secondary question is have we received any leads? Like, have you been contacted by any of these companies asking about Milton?
I have not.
Councilman Jordan presents his views of the report.
Even reading through this information that we have in front of us, notice that they still have interest in the Kmart property. They don't even realize that that property's been rented. These people do not seem to be real concerned about Milton.
Item 1350, the multi-mobile route or the sidewalks that connect Milton to Baghdad. You would think that would be an easy fix, but there's a couple of bridges we have to cross before we get there, as Councilwoman Holly will explain.
In the county, and it's not so much the study that's costly, it's the bridges that's going to cost the money. Millions of dollars and lots of them. I think that's why they have not proceeded further to do anything in reference to sidewalks until they can figure out where the bridge money's coming from.
And with the main funding for these bridges coming from the county, it looks like we need to speak with the county commissioners.
So it sounds like the suggestion is to lobby the county commissioners for more attention on this.
For those of us in Baghdad, this is where the sidewalk ends. Item 1343, purchasing thresholds clarification. We have Miss Diane to help us out.
So just to help you understand, what y'all had voted for was quotes in the 10 to 25,000, still requiring approval from council. And then if it goes to above 25,000 and up, it still requires approval of council, but it must be bid, it must be solicited.
Item 1352, facade grant guidelines. Now that the city holds responsibility over the facade grants and the distribution of the funds, they need some guidelines.
When we agreed that this should be council's duty, we didn't say that we were going to accept the guidelines that were in place by MSM. We just said we would take over the dispersion of the grants. And at this point, we're dispersing grants without any guidelines for the council. That being said, that we should not be dispersing grants without guidelines.
Item 1353, the discussion here is to put sidewalks on Berry Hill between Dogwood Drive and Stewart Street. But in order to make this sidewalk, the city is going to need to borrow some land.
I would recommend to council that the first thing, if you want us to pursue this, that we do is we hold an outreach meeting with area property owners to determine whether or not they'd be willing to grant the city the right to install a sidewalk on their property.
Appreciate that, Randy. I think that's exactly where we need to go with it.
They don't happen overnight and they're not free. And now you have to meet all the current guidelines. So it's not as easy as we'd like it to be.
I concur, and I will say that we've placed an emphasis on pedestrian pathways, as we should, in my opinion.
This will be coordinated for a September outreach meeting.
See everyone in September. Item 1354, City of Milton social media policy. And here we have Mr. Jorgensen to describe to us a little bit about this policy and who it's for.
To all executive officers, board committee members, management, and staff. I was of the opinion that that may include this council. Having said that, if council were to violate any of the provisions found here, it would be up to council to determine whatever ramifications that may have.
Informational item 1339, the Milton Police Department is getting an expansion. On to the mayor's report at item 1356. The committee of the whole meeting time at 5:30 is under discussion.
And I gave you guys a sheet showing you, you're talking about attendance.
Well, we can't make people come. You're right. They're not going to come unless they want to, and we appreciate the ones that come no matter when the time is, and we're not diminishing that at all. I appreciate you. I really do appreciate you coming in. It doesn't matter if we agree all the time. The fact that you come in, it means you care, and that's what matters.
This will catch us up to the special city council meeting regarding Main Street Milton. Here, Mr. Jorgensen will read the proposed vote.
My understanding is that staff should look at the memorandum of agreement, that is part of the budget process, to determine its form and content, to look at the relationship between the same and the Santa Rosa Historical Society proposed contract, ensure that as steward of the public record, that those records are made available to any requester, and any other direction that council may provide.
And after 5 full hours, the council votes.
4-3, Mr. Snow's amendment carries. The direction to staff is what has been stated.
To continue funding Main Street Milton, while staff continue to work with Main Street Milton in order to provide more oversight and more clarity into the overall operation of Main Street Milton. All right, thank you for watching the Blackwater Report. We hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, share, and comment, and we will see you at the next meeting.